Okay, loan. If you want to know, the loan is how much you need to borrow, right? So it would be the price of the car, watch this in brackets, after tax. So you take this is on page 27. So price of the car minus, if you saved up, right? If you have a down payment, then you subtract it from the price of the car. And I think you can kind of wrap your head around that one, right? If you buy a car for 10 grand and you have 2,000 saved up, you're gonna have to borrow 8 grand, right? You take the 10 minus 2, 8 grand is what you need to borrow. Okay. Monthly payment, here's your formula for that one. You take the price of the car minus the down, and we call this the loan, right? It hasn't changed. This is still referred to as the loan. And you multiply it. Some of you will recognize this from grade 11. Remember using a chart with a bunch of numbers and you would pick a value from that big chart? Does that ring a bell? Maybe, maybe not. It's okay, I'll teach you everything again. So it's a value per 1,000. And at the top, write down table rate. And I want you to scratch this little piece here. It says table rate on page 18. It's not true anymore because I made a bunch of changes to this booklet. So just scratch it, okay? This is how you would get your monthly payment, by the way. That's the formula. You should have that on your study sheet. Total paid to the bank. I actually use the letters. Total paid to the bank. At the end of the day would be your payment times 12 months. Always 12 months because all of our questions are going to have monthly payments times the number of years. And if you think a little about this formula, right, let's say you're doing a 2-year loan, 2 times 12, that'd be 24 payments, right, altogether. So this formula kind of makes it work every time. So this is how much you will have paid the bank once your loan is done. Total interest, I talked about these yesterday in length, right? Total interest is payment times 12 times years. And you're like, Mr. Dirksen, isn't that the same thing? We're not done yet. So to find the total interest, you take the total paid to the bank and watch this, you subtract the loan from it. And if you have a highlighter, I will go up here, highlight loan and loan here. Because I will actually, when I work through these questions, I will usually put the loan amount down here. Okay. That's total interest, guys. Finance charge. You want to, if some of you might forget, AKA finance charge. Okay. Interest paid on the first month. Does that ring a bell? First month? That's lowercase I. That's when you zoom into a payment. You go loan, there's that word again, times interest rate as a percentage divided by 100. And if you just kept it like that, that would be for the whole year. But if you just want it for the first month, you need to divide it by 12. That's how you get the interest for the first month. To get your principal, because remember, these two always add up to what? Lowercase I, lowercase p, add up to your payment, right? Your payment. So we would take our payment and subtract the thing we just calculated here from the payment. Right? So this is almost like a separate formula, but these together always make up your payment. One more. Total paid for the car. Like if they ask you, hey, you just took out the loan, or actually you're done paying off the loan, right? You're done. How much did you really pay? Okay. Well, you take the down payment plus total paid to the bank, which is payment times 12 times years. No surprises there. And this is it. I'm just having a note down here because I worked through the whole booklet and then I go back and add some notes to prevent some misunderstandings, right? Just a little note underneath all these formulas. Usually, the purchase price will include taxes. But read carefully because I have some examples where it's going to ask you to add taxes. Okay. Just I need you to understand this formula. Total paid for the car. Would this make sense to you, right? At the end of the day, you paid the bank a bunch of money with payments, but you also put the down payment down, right? So technically you need to consider the down payment when you're figuring out total paid for the car. I will strongly encourage you to add make it nice on your study sheet, these formulas. And these come back when we do home finance. That's the last unit we'll be doing, okay? Home finance. They're exactly the same. I guarantee you the formulas for home finance are exactly the same, except for we're talking, instead of a loan, we're talking mortgages. A mortgage is a loan towards a house, but everything else will stay exactly the same. And instead of saying total paid for the car, it will say total paid for the house, right? So we'll change it slightly, but if you take some time and make this nice, you will be fine. Okay, let's go to page 28. We'll do an example without down payment. I'll do this one with you, and then you will do one on your own. Okay. All right. You need to borrow a total of $31,500 to buy a car. We assume taxes are included. If it doesn't say anything, we're just going to say, hey, we're assuming that, hey, we need to borrow this much, so all the taxes, all that has been taken care of. This is a 5-year loan. The term is 5 years, right? And the interest rate is 3.5%. There's no down payment. Calculate the monthly payment. That's me, by the way. When I buy a car, I don't have a down payment. I'm somewhat broke, right? So I just borrow the entire amount I need. Okay. So to figure out the payment, just write this down and follow the formulas. The price of the car is $31,500 minus, let's go with a 0 just so you can walk it through, right? There's no down. we're going to multiply it by a table rate divided by 1,000. Why by 1,000, you might ask? This 1,000 right here comes from here. Okay? That's why we divide it by 1,000. If it's percent, we divide something by 100. If it's per 1,000, then we divide it by 1,000. Okay. So just for this question, I'm going to give you a little part of the table. So we're going to match 3.5% right here, the interest rate. See that? You match that with the term, which is 5 years. So you go all over the 5 and you match these two until you get your number right there. Okay. So 3.5 meets 5 years. 1819 is the number that you put in here. 1819 right there. This is what I call the loan. 31,500 minus 0. Let's use our calculator for that one. No, I'm just kidding. Right, that's the loan. That's the loan. You're going to have to take out the entire amount and pay it off. So grab your calculators and let's do this. 31,500 times 18.19. I hit equals at that point, and then I divide everything by 1,000. Otherwise, your payment is huge, right? So there it is, 572.99 per month. All of our payments are going to be monthly payments, okay? Just to keep things simple. True or false? You take your monthly payment and just divide it by 2 to get your bi-weekly payment. What do you think? Bi-weekly is every 2 weeks. It's actually not quite true. It ends up being a little less than that. But that's not for today. We're going to do that a different day. Okay, so we figured out our payment. That stays fixed. This is a fixed amount. Very important, right? Until you're paid off, you're paying that every month for the rest of the term. Okay. Next question. The total amount paid back to the bank in 5 years. This is paid to the bank, right? So TPB, what's the formula for that one? Take your payment, multiply it by 12 months, and then multiply that by the number of years. In this case, it's 5 years. By the way, let me do this just for you to see. 12 times 5 is what? How many months? 60 months, right? That's really what's happening here. You're making this payment for 60 months. And there it is. That gives you 34,379.40, which makes sense. We borrowed 31,500. We paid back a bit more. Circle it. That's your answer. Let's keep going. Total interest, aka finance charge, TI. TI is, I will do the whole thing again. It's total paid to the bank. So I copy this top line here. Total paid to the bank minus, what does it call for? It calls for the loan, right? The formula? Which is price minus down, which is in this case the whole thing. See how I always put the loan here? Can you look up here once? I will always in my work take the price of the car, any down payment, and I put the loan underneath like this. And that is the number I use here. So if you have another highlighter, I will do this. Right, so you see, oh, okay, I see the loan. The loan that I figured out way at the beginning is what I'm using here. Notice that I'm not highlighting this inside here because, right, the loan itself can be different. If you had a 10 grand down payment, this would have been 21,500. Right? You don't borrow the entire amount. So this one I can borrow, right? This number I already know. And then I think you guys need to do some work because it's tough to stay awake in the afternoon, right? So we do that, we get 2,879.40. That's the total interest you will have paid over 5 years. I don't know about you, but I can think of a lot of things that I can spend that money on, right? So that's why saving up is important. Last question, guys. The amount of interest and principal paid, this is key here, the first month's payment only. First month's payment only. You're zoom in to first payment. It's basically what you're doing. You're zooming into the first payment. And so we know the first payment is, right, but you're going to break it down into lowercase p and lowercase I. Order doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one you, where do you put these numbers, but they want both of these, lowercase I, lowercase p, okay? And this is the one you need to start with if you're not given anything, which is I is equal to loan and the interest rate is, it's the interest rate, okay guys? 3.5 divided by 100, all of that divided by 12. Let me do this one more time. This ends up being 0.035. All of that divided by 12. So, right, the 3.5, I think everybody knows this one. That's what I get for my interest rate. And then it's 31,500 times 0.035. All of that divided by 12. And so my first month would be 91.88, right? It's 875. The 5 bumps that to an 8. So there you go. This is what they're asking for. Okay. This is the 9188. Remember I showed you on my iPad, right, the breakdown? So the principal is simply taking your payment and subtracting the interest you just found, which is 481.11. This is lowercase p. Fun stuff, eh? Okay, I need to, before I'm going to ask you to do the one on the next page here. Before you start though, come with me to page 32. This is the page you kind of want to earmark. Kind of want to just put a little, bend the corner or something so it sticks out a bit. Okay. So this is the big chart. I gave you a little snapshot of it on the first question, but this gets you all the way to 12% interest, right? So there's more in here. And so 1 to 5 years of loan. So I'm going to let you just for now, you want to use this one for every question that involves a loan, you want to use this one. ACs, Test quizzes, I provide this. So you don't have to have this booklet with you for that or anything. You will always be provided with this table. Okay? But for the questions in here, you have to go to page 32. So go to page 29 for that second example. This one has a down payment, guys. Saved up $4,900 for a down payment. So you're gonna have to be careful. Okay. I believe in you. I think you can handle that. I will give you the answer to the first two, so you know you're on the right track. Ready? I'll put it in a, if you don't want to look at it, just look down right now. If you don't want to know what it is ahead of time, there is that answer. That should be your payment. Obviously, you'll show me work. And this will be 35,469.60. Okay. Maybe I'll do the first three things here. This is 4,769.60. Okay. So use the formulas I gave you and try to come up with these numbers on your own, right? So you can start now.